they created these Joliet for-profit immigrant prison signs. We're against it, and they put them up all over Joliet. It was a badge of honor to have one of these on your lawn. And it all of a sudden became the visual synonymous with these groups that, understood that if we're going to fight, we're going to fight together on this. And guess what the Joliet group called themselves? The Concerned Citizens of Joliet. They used what the Concerned Citizens of Crete had done, and not only that, but actually the Concerned Citizens of Crete actually came to help them out in Joliet. It was an understanding that, even though they're not trying to build a detention center in my community, we know that it's going to mean the same thing for you guys, and we're going to come help out. After the elections, the whole vibe in Joliet had changed, and 2 weeks later, the city manager who was pushing and pushing and pushing to get this put forward realized he wasn't going to get the votes. From all of a sudden, a united city council that said, we're going to vote this forward, unanimously we're going to vote for building a detention center, all of a sudden 5 were immediately against the detention center. In a statement 2 weeks later, the city manager said, we're not going to build it. We're not going to go in this contract with CCA. We can't do it. And then 2 weeks after that, he quit. And he quit as a result of all the tension that was building up against him specifically, because all of a sudden, because these different groups started to realize that, this guy is doing something shady. He's in contracts with CCA. A bunch of his other contracts started to come under the looking glass and realized that this guy was actually working for a number of other companies. And so Joliet is now without a city manager, but looking for somebody that's going to represent the communities that come out and vote. Now, I had to wrap this up relatively quickly. There was one other story I wanted to tell, but you guys can come talk to me afterwards, and I'll tell you the story about what else happened in Joliet. But what's really important to take from this is CCA is going to continue to look for places in Illinois. And while we're going to have groups that are going to be able to fight it, there's a lot happening locally that people really need to understand that you can plug into. Currently, James made the pitch for what's happening in trying to fight a new jail from being built here in Champaign. Part of that jail in Champaign, if it's built, is going to be used to house immigrants, undocumented immigrants who are here. It's going to be the stopping point before they actually get deported. What happens and who actually fills that jail are people in our communities that lots of us actually know. And so it's our job to figure out how to get involved. What I plead you guys to do is sign the 2 cards that were on your chairs. One is going to a county board member to actually say, we ask for your support in not building this jail. And the second is a petition that's going to Congressman Davis. We're looking for Congressman Rodney Davis. He won his last election by 1,002 votes in this district here. And we're trying to get 1,002 cards signed to be able to say, these are the people who are going to pay attention during your next election. Where's Rodney? Thanks, Chisco. There's a number of things you guys can do. Sign the petitions, come talk to Francisco and I. We're going to be leading a campaign working with a number of other groups here in Champaign to actually, one, get people out to vote, because the new district actually has a lot of new immigrant communities in it. And meanwhile, trying to figure out how are we going to link with communities like the African American community here that traditionally don't come out and vote as much. So how are we going to actually work together to build a coalition of folks that are going to be able to fight on issues like building a new jail and actually promoting comprehensive immigration reform. So I just want to end it on that note. Feel free to come talk to me if you have any other questions, and please come talk to James too about the different work that we're going to be doing with CUCPJ and the Immigration Forum. Thanks.
Thank you all. Thanks. So we're going to pass around the microphone. If you have a question for Jesse, please raise your hand. In the meantime, I'd like to make a couple announcements. Here, hold this. I'm going to use this guy. Yeah, that one should work. Can you all hear me okay with this? No? Can you all hear me okay? All right, thanks. So a couple of announcements. One, please do fill out the card on your way out, the 2 cards. Also, important announcement, For Angela Davis's talk next week, we will be having tickets, free tickets for reserved seating. So tickets are available at the front desk of the Y. If you want to secure your seat for Angela Davis's talk, which will be here in Latzer Hall, pick up a ticket, 2 are allowed per person. Pick up your ticket at the front desk. Be here at least 5 minutes ahead of time so you can get your seat. We'll be taking tickets and you'll be escorted to your reserved seat. If not, we will have seating for people who show up without their tickets. They will still be have free entry, and there will be overflow space where it's going to be live streamed with the video in Murphy in the other room. But if you want to get in the room and make sure you're here for Angela Davis's talk, pick up your ticket and make sure you're here at least 5 minutes early. I'd recommend actually you're here at least 45 minutes early, to be honest. Yeah. So. Yeah, time for Q&A. So if you have a question, please raise your hand and we'll pass the microphone around. Thank you. Seminole. This is you.
Dude, it's really hot in there. It's really hot in there.
Sir?
Yeah.
Is this the original Angela Davis from the 60s?
No, this is for this guy. Yeah, the original, the one and only.
I'm 76. She's my age. And she's still active?
Is there a question? Sorry.
She's still active, sir.
Very active, very active. And
Thank
she's so
you very
active,
much.
she'll be here next week. That's how
Very
active.
good.
That's how active she is. She will be here in this room.
Jesse,
Yeah.
thank you so much for all you're doing. When you went to Creek, how did you identify those 10 people?
Yeah. What I did is we went to a few of the local churches and made an announcement about, trying to put together a group. And out of those meetings, 2 people surfaced, and they said, "We'll talk to people and we'll hold a house meeting." And so we did 3 house meetings in a row. And at that point, there were 10 people who were really, really dedicated to figuring out how to work together. Thanks.
Hi, Jesse.
Hi.
Okay, so one of the things that I had is maybe kind of a little bit in relationship to that last question, and that is that I'm really fascinated by this connection. It hits home very closely for me of white working class people living in towns that are really dependent on prisons and trying to work with them and get them to understand the complexity of that system that is also oppressing them in certain ways. And I'm interested in knowing, I guess, kind of in relationship to that last question, what are some of the political reasons that the 10 organizers in Creek decided to get involved? So what did they identify as problematic about the prison system?
The first part was they really found it problematic that their town would all of a sudden become a jail town, and it's not something that they had associated with. The other is that they were actually worried about security in their town. They didn't want, undocumented immigrants that were, could be criminals coming to their town. And then the other is property taxes. So for a lot of them, it was self-interest, and then as they started to kind of flesh out, those different reasons, they actually became much more in tune with the message around immigration reform and understanding what it was doing to families that we are incarcerating. So it was kind of a multi-layered process that started off with their their self-interest about, personally what it was going to mean for Creek, and it evolved into something much different to them coming to Joliet to help, right?
I wonder if you could say something more about the prison in McHenry and the other one that you had on the screen. And you say these are partially privately run. Who is it? CCA that runs those?
No, it's actually part of the first group, the third group that I mentioned, which is the smaller of the different companies. It's actually the Management and Training Corporation. So what it is it's housed through the state, but then each one of those detainees is locked up in a different part of the facility, and they're directly accountable to Immigrations and Customs Enforcement.